This episode highlights a writer's experience applying the principles I teach and implement with my writers. This is for the writer who has written a lot, like thousands and thousands and thousands of words, like hundreds of thousands of words. Writing that much material can eventually feel crippling. And then you're sitting there staring at your computer with no idea what to actually do with everything that you've written. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen this happen with writers. Today, I am sharing a story of a writer that I worked with who had this exact problem and how he took her 150,000 word manuscript and halved it. Let's go. I'm going to take a guess and assume that you have at some point felt completely overwhelmed by your manuscript, by the writing process. Like the sheer amount of words is crushing you and you don't even know where to begin revising. A lot of times writers will come to me at that stage, and for their sakes, I wish they had come a little bit sooner because it's a little bit messier when you're working with over 100,000 words, right? But some clients will come to me at this stage of like feeling completely crushed by everything that they've written. One of my clients came to me with over 150,000 words. She knew her story was important. She knew that it was a really essential perspective, but she didn't quite know what that impact was supposed to be or how to communicate it. So in today's episode, I will share how we turned her very unwieldy draft into a focused, reader-driven memoir and how you can take the first step toward doing the same. So this writer, when she came to me, she felt completely paralyzed. She'd written over 150,000 words, which is an incredible feat. But she had no idea what to do next. Her manuscript felt like a giant puzzle with no picture to guide her. You know, when you get those jigsaw puzzles and you at least have the picture. So this manuscript was probably the equivalent of a 5,000 piece jigsaw puzzle. Okay. But at least with that, you have like the picture on the box to help you make sense of it. So she came to me and said, I just needed someone to help. I just need both this dear writer, her giant manuscript. She didn't even have that picture on the box. So she came to me and she said, I just need someone to help me make sense of this. So for context, 150,000 words equates to about 600 pages. That is so many pages, my friend. That is so many pages, especially for a memoir. The typical memoir manuscript comes in at anywhere between 60 and 75,000 words. So her manuscript was about double of what the industry standard recommends. So maybe you haven't written as much as that, but maybe you have, but you've written a lot and you're at the point where you don't know what to do with it. This is a very familiar place for me as an editor. I see so many writers come to me in this specific spot. They don't know what to do with what they've written. So I want you to take comfort in that, one, I know what to do. I've done this so many times. I'm hoping that today's story will help you. And you have writers just like you who have felt this way. So stay with me, because this writer and I really did have her word count. Like truly, we took a very unwieldy manuscript and we cut it in half without losing anything essential. Like truly. So this might sound familiar. This is a common problem. Writers often pour everything that they have into their manuscript, but when it comes time to revise, they freeze. Like you'll see 101 million memes on the internet for writers that laugh, cry at the revisions and editing process. You write this draft, you pour your whole heart into it, it's fun, but then you have to edit it, okay? This is very common. There are memes about this for a reason. But what happens is you write all of this content, but then you don't know where to start or what to cut. Here's the breakthrough that happened with this particular writer. When I asked her, what's the deeper message of your memoir? What do you want your reader to walk away with? She realized that she hadn't been thinking about her reader. She was too focused on telling her story instead of thinking about why it mattered. And not why it mattered in the existential sense. Every single person's life and their story matters on an existential celestial level. When we're talking about memoir and the manuscript and the editing, we need to discern why your story matters to your reader. So once we answered those questions, we spent a lot of time answering those questions. Once we nailed down that message, that thread, that meaning to her reader, the revisions became much more clear. We could go through her manuscript easy and identify which parts served the message and which parts did not. It was so much easier to pull out repetition and sort that into, filter that out, because we could keep the parts that were the most relevant to the message, to the reader. And a side note, we didn't actually permanently delete anything. We simply moved chapters and stories that didn't fit into our refined document, that didn't fit into the message and the meaning of her story. We just took everything that didn't fit and pasted it into a different document. So that's a little tip for you. If you are afraid of cutting things, you can just cut and paste into a new document. So you don't have to completely delete everything, and you can always move stuff back if you need to, but visually it gets rid of all of the elements that do not serve the story. So that did make the process feel less scary and more manageable, okay? Over the course of a few months, this process cut her manuscript in half. This is good. This is good news. We do not want a memoir manuscript that is 150,000 words. That's too many words. You're not going to keep your reader reading for that long. I know that there are memoirs out there that are that long. The ones I'm thinking of are by celebrities and public figures. And those are more autobiographies anyway. Those aren't actually, I would not categorize those as memoir. I'd categorize them as autobiographies. And people read them because the person's a celebrity or a public figure. For regular people like you and me, you are going to need to give your reader a reason to care about your story. And that is a process that takes a different way of approaching your manuscript. It takes a different attitude and perspective. And most of all, it takes an editorial strategy, which I've been talking about a lot this month. Your editorial strategy is everything, okay? When we cut this writer's manuscript in half, what was left? Her manuscript wasn't just shorter. It was stronger. She now has a clear vision for her memoir. She knows exactly what she's creating. Truly. She knows the thread. She knows the meaning. She knows why this is going to matter to the reader on the other side of the page. And because she knows that, everything that she puts into her manuscript is focused. Everything has a purpose because she has a strategy for those revisions. She has a strategy for this message. This clarity gave her the confidence to keep going. And now she's closer than ever to finishing her book. So this culling process was the first step in her revisions. And now she gets to focus on smoothing out the actual narrative and working on the overall structure. But with the message at the forefront of her process, everything about this work became so much more clear and straightforward. What we worked on together in our time as editor and writer is a resource, a strategic resource that she can pull through with her throughout the entire editing, revisions, publication process. This is not just a tool that is only useful when she's working with me or only useful in one specific stage. This is a resource that is adaptable to literally every stage of the publication process. Edits, revisions, marketing, querying, all the things. Knowing that is her superpower. And we were able to take a manuscript that was so much longer than it should have been, that it needed to be, and make it stronger. We made it shorter. We made it mean something to her reader using this editorial strategy. So if you are feeling overwhelmed by your draft, I want you to start by asking yourself, what is my message? What do I want my reader to take away from my story? This clarity is the first step that you need to make sense of your manuscript. And I know that if you've been listening to these episodes, that's not going to be new information to you. These principles that I talk about I have a very simple set of principles and frameworks that I use as an editor. So I'm trying to show you how that plays out in different settings. But the point to you, the takeaway is the same. What are you writing? Who are you writing for? Why are you writing? So that's what I want you to do. I love to work with writers like this one who brought me so many words, but who also had a lot of commitment to the story, to the process. I love to work with writers who have already committed the time and energy to the actual writing and who now need help figuring out what's next for them, how to make sense of what it is they've written, how to move through that overwhelm, how to implement editorial strategy. So I want to invite you to join my email list. That's a place where I share exclusive tips, insights, and strategies to help writers like you actually move forward in their memoirs. I'll put the link in the show notes for you to join that email list. That is the best place to stay in touch with all the things in my editorial world. Because if you're here, you have a story that is asking to be written. So let's figure out how to do that in a way that fills you up and also impacts your reader. That's what I want to do. So have a great day. I'll see you on Friday.